Hey, welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR, and we have got a lot to talk about that's going on in Big Ten basketball. A huge slate of games this weekend. Not really a ton of upsets or anything like that, but, good games that we will be discussing. We have the return of Terrence Shannon Jr. We have Illinois picking up a big win over Rutgers. And when I say big, I mean they won big in that one. Purdue went on the road. And, of course, we'll talk about Michigan State and their game against Maryland. That's actually where we'll start. But before we get into that, I do want to introduce our guest. We have Kent back with us again from Casual Big Ten. Kent, flopping. Where do you stand on the matter?
I'm against it.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of flopping. So if I
Especially
see it,
women's
I'm going to call it
basketball
out.
flopping. Yeah.
You know,
Women's basketball flopping you really don't like, right?
I'm really against that. Like when the men do it,
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. But when women do it, I have to take a stand. It's like,
Yeah.
that's enough. We can't
I got you.
have. I'm all about equal rights until it comes to them trying to do flops. And I'm just like, I got to draw a line somewhere.
We have Blake here saying, Boiler up. Yes, Blake, we would talk about your boilers. Thank you for joining us here. Kent, why don't you tell people about yourself, where they can find you, and where they can find your viral tweet that's going on right now?
Yeah, it's Kent Peterson. I'm at Casual Big Ten on Twitter. That's where I do most of my damage. I'm doing my shows. I have decided, we talked about this, JR. Every Monday and Thursday, I record a show. They come out on the same day. So that's when I do my podcasts on YouTube. Any podcast listening app that you choose to use is where you can find me talking about basketball, usually all by myself.
Very cool. All right. Thanks, Kent. Appreciate that. And then we have Anthony, the real Shardy, with us. Anthony, I don't think you have any tweets going viral right now, but how you doing?
No, my last tweet to go viral was my Steven Izzo edit where I put Titanic music over his lone MSU points in a regular season game, which that one popped off pretty well. I got a couple of the team members who retweeted it, so I'm almost certain that they showed that to Steven. At least that's my hope that he saw that. That would have been a week ago today on Sunday.
That's fantastic. All right, tell me where they can find you at.
Yeah, you can find me at The Real Shardy on Twitter. That's where I do all of my trolling, all of my very poor photo edits, and a little bit of stats digging. I do more of my serious work on SpartanShadows.com. You can find us on Twitter, Spartan_Shadows. We cover pretty much all MSU sports, anything major going on in the MSU world.
Love it. All right. If you're watching on YouTube, please do like and subscribe. We appreciate that. If you are listening on podcast, please do subscribe there. Leave us a rating or review. We'd love to know what you think about the podcast. If you have bad things to say, just go ahead and email me the Big Ten Huddle or JR's rankings at gmail.com. And go on over there, let us know. And if you are interested in more Big Ten content, head on over to Big Banter Sports, bigbantersports.com. They are the sponsor of this podcast. We have a podcast for every Big Ten team over there. So bigbantersports.com. Head on over there. All right, guys, let's get to this first. Michigan State wins a close one against Maryland. Thankfully, Jahmir Young fumbles the ball at the end of the game. I didn't think Jahmir Young was going to be able to do anything with 5 seconds left, but he fumbles the ball, and Michigan State gets the win. Tyson Walker has a very good game. Just overall, Michigan State kind of some questionable stuff here and there, but they got the win. And Maryland is looking like a much more formidable opponent, and they were kind of in the same range with the record and everything like that for Michigan State. So for Michigan State to go on the road and get this win here, that is huge for them in this situation. Anthony, what were your thoughts on the game?
So first off, I think saying Jahmir Young fumbled the ball is being extremely disingenuous to Trey Holloman, making a defensive play and poking the ball away from him.
Well, when they fumble it, somebody else gets it normally.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I think, you look, this is obviously a tale of two halves. First half, MSU scores 44. They were shooting 59% from the field, 6 of 10 from three. And I mean, like on the road against Maryland, who's by most metrics a top 30 defense, that was pretty impressive to put up that, offensive showing. And then Maryland really adjusted well in the second half. They clamped down in the paint. I think they had 6 blocks in the second half alone. So they really keyed in on trying to stop Michigan State defensively. And for the most part, it worked. Michigan State only had 17 second half points. AJ Hoggard and Tyson Walker really have to be MSU's closers if they want to do any serious damage in the Big Ten and in March. And they combined for MSU's last 5 field goals, so they did just that. I can't understate, or it can't be overstated how important Trey Holloman is to this team, particularly with having Jeremy Fears go down. I think having a guy like Trey Holloman for as a backup point guard is a luxury in the Big Ten. He coming off the bench, he's I wouldn't say he's necessarily starting caliber, but as a 3-and-D guy goes, he can clamp down defensively. He really did well today defensively. Jameer Young still had 19 points, but it was on 6 of 15 shooting. He had 7 turnovers, and then Trey had the poke at the very end to seal the game. So he's really flourishing right now with this increased role. Fun little nugget from John Rothstein. MSU is 9-0 when Trey Holloman scores 6 points or more. So he has a good game. MSU's going to look a lot better. Absolutely massive for MSU to get their first road win of the season. Proves that they can. It wasn't pretty, but honestly, I will take a road win anywhere we can get one in the Big Ten today. So props to Maryland for crashing the offensive glass, keeping themselves in it with their defense, but really, really excited to see Michigan State, finish out a close one on the road.
Yeah, I mean, Maryland, their record won't say it, but they've been playing really good ball lately. Ever since that Purdue game, they've been right in those games with them, or they've won the game. So Maryland is playing some good basketball right now. It kind of goes back to what I said in the last recap about the Maryland game. Really, their best shot to win games is for Jameer Young and Julian Reese to score half the points. In this one, they scored 29, and they had 59 points. So they weren't 50% there. Jordan Geronimo, 0 points in 25 minutes, only 3 rebounds, 4 personal fouls. I mean, when you have more personal fouls than you do rebounds and you play 20-plus minutes, that's just not going to get it done. Jameer Young, I think, is a fantastic player. Julian Reese is not only a fantastic player on offense, but he's also one of the best defenders in the Big Ten. They just need some more help there. Now, granted, Scott, he was able to do a lot of work there, 16 points in this game, so that helped out a lot. But still, I mean, you have got to get more from some of these other guys, like Geronimo and Harris Smith and the bench. They're only 9 points off the bench in this one. It's not a winning strategy for Maryland to do that. And I think you're exactly right about Michigan State with Trey Holloman, Anthony. He not surprised me, but he did a lot of things in this game that really solidified the win for Michigan State. Shooting 3 for 4 from behind the 3-point arc. That's huge for them, especially, when you're the leading 3-point shooter on the team coming off the bench. That provides so much for your team, not just in the points column, but also team overall, or team morale, everything like that. Kent, what were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that if Michigan State was playing almost anybody else, this would have been a loss. Honestly, I gotta be honest. Even though Anthony's on the show, it's a good win. I have to admit, it's a good win to get any win on the road in the Big Ten. But the hole that Maryland had to dig out of in the first half was just a little bit too much. I thought Michigan State looked great in the first half, especially defensively. I even tweeted that out. It felt like Michigan State had 8 or 9 guys on defense. Like, Maryland just could not get anything. They couldn't get to the basket. They couldn't do anything offensively, and that was a good credit to the Spartan defense. But as far as the second half goes, I thought it got coached poorly by Michigan State. I'll be honest. About 6 minutes left, they started running their patented dribble handoff at the top of the key offense where they hand it off or pitch it 3 times. And then every single time they run a pick and roll off of that. And as a casual, which that's what my account is named, if I can figure that out, then Division I college basketball players, especially Maryland college basketball players, figured it out. And that's when they started getting stops and getting back into the game. I thought that Michigan State should have started doing a little bit different stuff offensively at the end of the game to try to take the lead and take control of this game, and they didn't. But like you said, they ended up hitting enough shots at the end. Obviously, Tyson Walker's 3 with less than a minute to go was the dagger right there. But I feel like if that shot doesn't go down, then Michigan State loses this game. And then it's really, honestly, this is going to sound crazy, but for me, this game really hinged a lot of what their season is going to be like. I felt like if they lost this game, there was a chance that they start sliding down to not making the tournament. And if they won this game, it's like a completely different team. Like now they can start going towards getting a higher seed in the tournament. And luckily for Spartan fans, they did win this game, and they can start going that direction. But again, for Maryland, just too many mistakes. I mean, 17-7 on the turnovers. And then, like I said, the hole to dig out of in the first half was just a little bit too much for them. If they could have played a little bit better in the first half, they could have got this home win, but it was just too much. But I still feel like Michigan State has a lot to improve on if they're going to, get a higher seed in the tournament and then even like make any sort of a run in the NCAA tournament, which is what we were kind of expecting them to do going into the season, right?
Yeah. I mean, these were both teams that came into the season with very high expectations, and Michigan State is the team who can not fulfill all of those, but at least get to the tournament and make some noise there. But Maryland, I mean, a lot of their hype came in from guys. Well, I mean, we have Terps guy right here letting us know DHS and Jamie Kaser. They're not good, and I hate saying that. I hate being that guy to point out players, but I'm not saying they're not good, but they're not playing well, that's for sure. So they might be good players, but on the court, what they're showing right now, it's just not enough. I pointed out Jordan Geronimo, but he's exactly right. A couple of those guys there. It's just not good enough for Maryland to be who they hope to be this season. And I felt like this game was kind of the nail in the coffin to say, Maryland, you step back from what you were supposed to be. And honestly, the people I feel the worst for are Jameer Young and Julian Reese, because their talent has essentially been wasted with this team. I know that sounds harsh, but I mean, Anthony, am I wrong?
I mean, outside of those, they obviously defensively, those two guys are game changers, and offensively, they're both sides of the ball. They're really all you can ask for, but you need more from everyone else. And early on in the season, when Michigan State was struggling, it was kind of like, when will anyone not named Tyson Walker step up? And then when people not named Tyson Walker step up, the team looks a lot better, right? So it's you have to have more help. It can't just be a two-man show.
Yeah, for sure. Ultimate Boiler, what's up, JR? What's up, Ultimate Boiler? Thanks for being here. Appreciate that. Ken, I wanted to kick it back to you. We've talked about this a little bit. What can is there anything this Maryland team can do to give some satisfaction to the fans this season? I hate to just, continue to pour down on them, but is there anything that Maryland can do this season to give them? I mean, would an NIT, win give them any satisfaction? I mean, is there anything they can do this season to give them satisfaction?
I don't think so. Honestly, like when you watch this Maryland team play, I should say, it's just way too many possessions offensively where they look completely lost and they don't know what they're doing. They run a high pick and roll with Reese and Young, and then if that doesn't immediately work, then everyone else is just kind of standing around. So I just feel like they're kind of handicapped offensively. And like Anthony was saying, they're a pretty good defensive team, but they just can't score enough to, make any sort of a run. They're not going to be able to make a run in the Big Ten tournament, so that's not going to help them at all. And then, to be honest, like no one cares about the NIT. Like you could win the NIT, and like Maryland, who is the last current Big Ten team to win a national championship, is not going to be happy with a NIT championship. They're just not. So that's not going to make them happy, and they're not going to make the tournament. And it's just unfortunate. Like you said, Jameer Young is so talented, and they have enough pieces. But I just feel like offensively, they just can't do enough to do what they thought they were going to be able to do this season.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's sad. I put out my power rankings, what was it, last week for Player of the Year, and I got some flack from some Maryland fans because they were saying Jameer Young should be up there. And while I don't disagree he should be up there based on talent alone, unfortunately, when your team is not up there contending at all, it is really, really hard to win Player of the Year and even be in that discussion for the Big Ten. And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about when I say that Maryland has essentially wasted Jameer Young because he's not even getting the credit he deserves for how talented he is. One more note on Michigan State before we move on here, Anthony. I was very critical of the front court early on in the season, and I would like to hear your thoughts, Anthony, because I've heard some people talk about how things are getting better. I think Malik Hall is getting better. I think Malik Hall is doing better, but I look at Carson Cooper, 0 points, 27 minutes, 4 rebounds. I look at Matty Sissoko. Granted, he only plays 10 minutes in this game, but 2 points. I mean, do you see improvement from this front court that is helpful at all? I mean, are you seeing the same thing I am? Is there something I'm missing? I don't see a winning front court on this team.
So, I mean, obviously, yeah, Malik Hall has definitely been better. He's over the last 7 games. He had 1 stinker at Northwestern, but other than that, 6 of the last 7 games, he's been everything we wanted him to be, and a veteran upperclassman. There's times where I think he gets a little bit reliant on the same, post type moves, but sometimes that post type move is really hard to stop, and Maryland figured it out in the second half. But I think Malik Hall had 12 points in the first half of this game. So he's a big reason MSU.
I think that's all the points he had too.
Right. And that was the difference at halftime. So, obviously it's been a breath of fresh air to see him really, really step up in the ways that he has. I think the 5, I don't want to throw up our hands and say nothing can be done, but at this point, all we can ask for from that group is combined, can we get into double-digit rebounds, right? There's been a couple games where Matty Sissoko has 4 points, but he has 12 boards, right? I think he's top. I put out a stat last week. He was number 9 in the country in defensive rebounding percentage. So when he's out there and he's keeping teams off of the offensive glass, that's really, that this team he can help get the transition going. He's not going to be your first guy up the floor, but if he can secure the rebound, get it to the guards who can really push it up the floor, MSU gets, if they can get 15, 20 transition points, it's a total game changer for this team. Today, Sissoko had foul trouble, right? So that kept him off the floor. I think ideally we'd want him playing a lot more than 10 minutes. I think he's probably got a slight edge over Cooper in terms of what he brings to the team in terms of physicality. I think Cooper's a little more mobile in terms of defending pick and roll. Obviously, I'd love to see Jackson Kohler be 100%, but the fact of the matter is he's coming off, half a season with a foot injury. So he's not going to be jumping right back into action. He looked good in the 2 minutes he was in tonight, but it was, I'm not expecting him to jump right in and play 15, 20 minutes a night like a lot of people probably wanted him to. If you're looking for offensive production, it's going to come from Kohler. You're not going to see it from Cooper or Sissoko outside of an offensive rebound and putback or a lob, right? And if teams are shutting that down, they're going to be non-factors on offense. So would I like to see MSU run some small ball? Absolutely. Will they? Probably not. Izzo will continue to run a play through Sissoko the first time off the tip, and it's going to make me pull out my hair every time he does it, and he's still going to do it. Izzo's Izzo. He's stubborn. You love him, you hate him, but that's what you get at this point from the center position. So long answer to a short answer. Do I see improvement? Probably not from the center. From Malik Hall, definitely. He's definitely looked like a rejuvenated player over the last 7 games.
Here's the nice thing I'll say about the Michigan State front court. Carson Cooper has the most intimidating neck in the Big Ten. It's just like girth on that thing.
JR, I had to comment on the front court real quick, if I may.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I know that the front court might be struggling, but I think the thing that we're forgetting a lot about Michigan State is that the play that we're getting from the bench, and a lot of people talk about in college basketball, they talk about the bench and they talk about players that are actually playing. But I do want to mention that Steven Izzo is averaging at least 25 stand-ups per game, every game so far. And that is something that cannot be overstated. He stands up, he claps his hand, he does the rocking the baby, he sometimes jumps. And, the front court really feeds off that. And you could see that in this game. Some of those guys were like, okay, I can feel Steven jumping and getting up, and he's getting excited. So we're going to get excited. We're going to get some blocks, maybe score some down low on the block. And, that's huge for them. And people don't really talk about that enough in college basketball. The bench play from the guys that are actually on the bench, You
gotta look at Garrick Norman too. He has some great great bench reactions too. He's redshirting this year, but he'll be a good shooting guard in years to come. But he's right there next to Stevie, just faces lighting up on any big play.
Are they the best bench duo in the Big Ten?
No doubt.
Like we talk about backcourt duos. Like what about the bench duos?
I think they're the only ones I know.
I'm not hearing
it must be the best.
I'm not hearing any Steven Izzo slander on the closure of the week where he scored his only collegiate field goal. Probably his only ever collegiate field.
It's not
we
slander.
Love Steven Izzo.
Oh, yeah.
We are the official Steven Izzo podcast.
He played in 43 games, I think. He was 0 for 15 before that shot.
Hold on. He played in 43 games?
43 games.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, good for him. Is he a senior? How old is he?
He is a super senior, yeah.
Wow. So super senior or COVID senior?
He's played 5 years. So I think he redshirted 1 year, and he's had 4 years or not redshirted, but like he had an eligible extra year because of COVID. So he's currently in his 5th year.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we could sit here and talk about Steven Izzo all night. We'll end it with this. Blake here, epic bucket too. Yes.
It was an epic bucket.
Yeah. So epic, you put some Titanic music behind it and your tweet goes viral. So
it's great.
All right, moving on. Illinois beats Rutgers 86-63 in this one. Terrence Shannon Jr. came back and he had 16 points on 28 minutes. He did not start in this one, but he did get some starter minutes. He played the 4th most minutes on the team. We're going to talk about this game, but just a little disclaimer. I know that the Terrence Shannon Jr. conversation is very tumultuous right now because everybody wants to talk about what's going on legally and all that stuff. We're just going to talk about his performance on the court. We're not really going to talk about all that stuff. 1, I'm not a legal expert. 2, this is not the podcast to really get into that stuff. Illini Cast has gone into that a little bit, explaining the situation. So I highly recommend them as they know much more about it. But in referencing Terrence Shannon Jr., we're just going to talk about his play on the court. And if he stops playing on the court, then we will just move on and probably start talking much more about Marcus Domask because he scores a lot of points too when Terrence Shannon Jr. is not there. Speaking of Marcus Domask, only 12 points in this game on 33 minutes. He did have 7 rebounds, 5 assists, so a good game from him. He obviously is not getting the same production with Terrence Shannon Jr. in the game. Kent, what were your thoughts on the big win for Illinois?
Yeah, Rutgers just completely overmatched in this game. I mean, you look at some of the things that you want to do on the road or even just in any Big Ten matchup that will get you a win, and Rutgers did all of those things wrong. They had 3 guys in double figures. Illinois had 5. They got out-rebounded by 13. They only hit 3 3-pointers. Now, I will say their perimeter defense was pretty good. They held Illinois to only 6, but you can't hit 3 3-pointers on the road and expect to pick up a win, especially against a team like Illinois. Just a completely different game than what we saw when they beat Nebraska. I mean, in overtime just earlier this week, I believe it was. Just didn't see the same want to from Rutgers that we saw in that first game. And it was just a game that Rutgers was better at, or I'm sorry, Illinois was better at every position and just kind of kept control of this game throughout. It just wasn't really, to me, there wasn't really a storyline in this game other than that Illinois is better than Rutgers. Is kind of something that we knew going into it. So not much to really say about this one.
Oh, there wasn't even like a huge run in the first half. I think it was just like this slow pull away that Illinois had.
Yeah.
You could just like feel it happening at the beginning of the game where it just felt like Rutgers was not in it for this one. They made a bit of a surge. I think they cut it to 10 or 8 late into the first quarter. So there was a bit of a surge there, but at the end of the day, you could just tell this was Illinois' game. They were not going to lose at home in this one. And this is what a, top 15, top team in the country should do, is they should have an inferior team come in and they should easily take care of them, move on, go to the next game. So massive props to them. I'm more and more impressed with Brad Underwood and what he is doing each and every game. I've not always been a Brad Underwood fan, but I think that he's doing a great job with the team this year. And I like that he brought Terrence Shannon Jr. off the bench. And when Terrence Shannon Jr. was going well, I think, he didn't hit like his first 4 shots or something like that. He kept him in there and he let him go through it. And I thought that was a good move by Brad Underwood. And I don't have anything bad to say about the Illinois, the Illini Illini in this one. Anthony, what were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, so I mean, from Rutgers' perspective, if you shoot 3 for 14 from deep, you're not gonna get a road win. And Rutgers has been just anemic offensively this year. Defensively, obviously, they're able to slow opponents down, and that lets them hang around. But when they're not playing in Piscataway, it's scary times for them. Really, their center, Amori, was, I can never pronounce his name. Amori was really the only threat, right? And Illinois couldn't really do much defensively with him. He was pretty efficient today. But outside of that, Mag was a complete non-factor, 2 points today. Hyatt was pretty average by his standards, had 11 points, 5 of 12. Overall, just not enough offensive output from Rutgers to stay relevant in this one. They did pull to within 4 in the second half. They were down like 55-51, but immediately after that, Illinois went on a quick 5-0 run and never got back down to single digits after that. It was just a kind of a nail in the coffin type moment. With Terrence Shannon back, Illinois just sees a whole new level of intensity on defense and intensity in transition. You could tell tonight that he was a little bit slow. You could tell that he was trying to get his conditioning back, and obviously trying to stay in D1 conditioning shape, like in the game, is going to be hard, but he did pretty admirable given the time that he had off. Illinois is always going to bother teams defensively with the amount of length that they have on the perimeter, with Damask and Goody and Rogers, and now having Shannon back, and then having a guy like Coleman Hawkins. I love a good stat sheet stuffer, and there's been no one better this season at doing that than Coleman Hawkins. He's taken his game to another level, and honestly, he's putting himself into NBA. Maybe he won't get drafted, but undrafted free agent, absolutely. I could see him wind up on an NBA roster. So he had 12 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and 5 steals. Yeah. Super versatile on both ends of the floor. He can really stretch you out with his ability to hit from deep. But also post up if he needs to. In terms of defensive, he's really mobile for a guy with his length, but then he's also got the length on the inside to bother a center. So, a guy like Hawkins has just been invaluable for Illinois, particularly defensively, but just overall, really a nice glue guy for this team. And then I think Harmon too, coming off the bench, he's been shooting lights out recently. So, and you saw it today, he had 18 points today. When Harmon's clicking and all of the guards are they're just relentless. So really impressed with Illinois. I think Rutgers is 0-8 at State Farm Center since moving to the Big Ten in 2015. So unfortunately, that streak will go on another year. Tough place to
I got a quick question for Anthony,
hand up.
if I can.
Yeah, what's up?
I actually DM'd Coleman Hawkins and asked him to come on my podcast, and he hasn't responded yet. So just a question about his, decision-making skills going into the NBA, like not coming on my podcast. So, or not responding, at least at this point, at this moment in time.
Wait, I'm sorry. Was there a question in there?
Yeah. So what do you think about his decision-making skills, about not responding to my DM?
I think he is wise to focus on helping his team win. No, I think anybody who spurns a true basketball loving Twitter account and podcast really needs to evaluate how well they'll be liked by the fans of the team that they're eventually going to. So totally with you. I've had Trey Holloman retweeted my stuff. Great guy, nothing but great things to say about him. So if you get player interaction, it's all the much better. But so
if he's watching right now, Coleman, if you're watching, I feel like he is watching at this moment. Oh, yeah. So if you're watching, can you respond to the DM and maybe pop on the show just for like 15 minutes? I just want to chat about basketball with you.
If he's not verified, I'll see if I can DM him to it. Or I guess you probably need a check mark to verify him. To DM him, but I'll DM Coleman too and see if I can get him to respond back.
Yeah, if everyone that's listening could DM Coleman Hawkins and tell him to come on my show.
He's great on Twitter, by the way. He
actually is
hilarious on Twitter.
He's like the Lane Kiffin of college basketball players.
Also, this is the high. Just back to the Illinois. This is their highest scoring team in 3 decades, since 93-94. So this team is just
Sonny, Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, Coleman Hawkins, say it, JR. Hey, I will gladly say it.
First team at the very least.
11 steals in his past 2 games. So between that, I was just getting ready to say that if Coleman Hawkins got a triple-double with points, rebounds, and steals, I would not be surprised. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm predicting it, but if it happened, I'd be like, oh, wow, yeah, that makes sense. Coleman Hawkins is who Coleman Hawkins is. So, yeah, no, I completely agree. I think Coleman Hawkins is Defensive Player of the Year potential. He's definitely up there. In my power rankings, he'll at least be top 4, I would think. Just going off the top of my head. But, yeah, no, he's really shown out lately and been able to do that. And I saw some people putting him on their first team for Big Ten defense, whatever, all Big Ten defense or whatever. So, no, I think Coleman Hawkins, and I remember going into the year, Coleman Hawkins, I said, was one of my favorite players in the Big Ten. The biggest thing for me was, can he be consistent? Can he put it together each and every game? I don't think there has been a player who has benefited more, and I'm not trying to say from the situation, but just from Terrence Shannon Jr. being out, than Coleman Hawkins, because Coleman Hawkins has had to take that leadership role. You know, I think obviously Marcus Domask has taken that scoring role, but the team has looked to Coleman Hawkins more often to, you know, really be that guy who can keep them together. And, you know, for him, if you have Coleman Hawkins playing like that and Terrence Shannon Jr. playing to his top potential, guys, I know it sounds crazy, but this is an Elite 8 Final Four team. If those 2 guys are playing at their Final Four potential, or at their highest potential, this is an Elite 8 Final Four team, and I would not be surprised at all if they made it to the national championship. I'm not predicting that it will happen. I've heard some people predict that. I'm not predicting that, but it would not surprise me at all. Kent, are you with me on that, or is this like the Chucky Hepburn situation where I'm crazy?
No, I think that's a good take, that what you're saying. I mean, his defense is really good. I mean, I'm 0 for 1 in his DMs right now, so like, his defense is amazing, I think. Yeah. For me, especially.
I really need him to block you to solidify my take on his defense. Right?
If he blocks me, if I go 0 for 1 with and I get my shot blocked, oh, man. His defense, I'll put him for sure on my I'll vote him number 1 in his defensive rankings. But no, I think this is a team that can make a run, no doubt. Especially, I do think that I'm one of the few people that thinks that, or maybe I'm not, but I do think that they need Terrence Shannon Jr. to be on the team, though, and playing at a high level for them to make a deep run, though. And, you know, they did show that they can do it without him, but I need him to be there throughout the season and, kind of carry that team to a Final Four, because he is their best player. And especially when it comes in March, you need those really good high-level guards to carry you deep into the tournament.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Coleman Hawkins is, you know, he's not a guard, but he definitely has ball handling skills, and so he's one of those guys that, you know, he just adds another ball handler onto the court, and, you know, he'll give the ball up and then go post up in the post. And so just such a versatile player, and I love watching him play. Honestly, I just love watching this Illinois team play. I think that they're a lot of fun, and I think that Brad Underwood's making good decisions, and I would not be surprised if they tied for the Big Ten, championship, or if they made it to the Big Ten championship in the tournament or anything like that. I wouldn't be surprised at all, because it's a really good team. All right, moving on from there, let's go to Purdue wins 84-70 over Iowa. They go into Iowa City, the Fighting Fran McCaffreys, and take him down. Your boy Tony Perkins, Kent, he had 24 points in this one, so can't really be too mad about that. Only problem is Purdue does have Zach Edey, and he scored 30 and just kind of basically had his way with with Iowa the entire game. But hey, Iowa put up a good fight in this one. It was a blowout, but at the end of the day, you saw some things from Iowa that you want to continue to see. I don't know if people realize this Iowa team plays like the most freshmen in the Big Ten or something like that, and they're actually doing a really good job. So with the amount of youth they have on this team playing as well as they are, it is encouraging. But when you have that many freshmen, you're just not going to take down Purdue, even if it is at home. Kent, what'd you see in this game?
I saw Tony Perkins. Like you just said, you took away my talking points. 24 points from my favorite player in the Big Ten, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. I mean, he did lose the game. I understand that. But you know what I always say about Tony Perkins is that he always looks good doing it, though. So it doesn't really matter if he wins or loses. As long as his picture is taken and he's on the graphic after the game, that doesn't really matter. He looked good doing it. 24-5-4. What else do you want from him? This felt like a game though throughout as I was watching it, that when Purdue got a big enough lead, which in this game it was halfway through the first half, they had an 8-point lead. Iowa was never able to like just get over the hump. It just felt like, okay, they're going to get a stop and they're going to get 2 buckets in a row, but then Purdue comes down and scores. And then they get a stop and get 2 buckets in a row, and then Purdue comes down and scores, and then Purdue gets a stop. You know what I mean? It just felt like they just couldn't get any closer than 11, then 9, then 8. So I felt frustrated as a Tony Perkins fan watching this game, trying to see him, will his team back. But I thought it was a decent effort by Iowa. This was the most confusing thing to me, though. I still get lost on this. Michigan beat Iowa at Iowa by almost the same margin that Purdue did. I cannot figure this out. Purdue won by, I don't know what the final score, you got the final score on the screen right here. They won by 14. I think Michigan won by 10 at Iowa. I just can't figure that part out. And then I did have a question for you guys as I send it back to JR. Trey Kaufman-Renn at the end of the game came up a little bit limp. Did you guys read anything about what happened with him? Because it didn't look serious on the replay, but he was acting like it was very serious, and I am concerned for him.
No, I haven't seen anything about that. Trey Kaufman-Renn, he's kind of proved me right lately. I mean, if he is injured, I hate to talk about a guy who's injured this way, but I remember after the Illinois game, everybody kind of told me, oh, no, he's not an average player. Look, he scored 23 points. I think I even had Russ on here telling me that, and I said, well, maybe I'm wrong. Last 4 games, he's had 0, 5, 3, and 4 points. So part of that is Trey Kaufman-Renn being average in my mind, but then also part of that is just Zach Edey is. But if they do lose Trey Kaufman-Renn, I do think they lose a valuable piece to the starting lineup, because if nothing else, this starting lineup gels together really, really well. Braden Smith, Fletcher Loyer, and Lance Jones. I haven't talked about this enough lately. The addition that he has made to this team, not just, in points and things like that, but just the way the offense operates with him on the floor. He's so unselfish and willing to do whatever it takes. He's really just a great addition to this team and helping out in those ways. Anthony, have you heard anything about Trey Kaufman-Renn, or what are your thoughts?
Nothing on the injury, no. Sorry to be a dud there.
No, you're good.
I mean, overall, I'll say this seems about right for a Fran McCaffrey team. Pretty smooth offensively, really, can score points in bunches, but then when they need to get a stop, it's a very small forward and power forward heavy offense that really does not, they're not structured to stop a guy like Edey, right? I think Purdue had 19 offensive rebounds and 50 rebounds total, which is just a stupid number. What are you going to do at that point? The other thing that Purdue does really well is they draw fouls. Edey gets fouls called on him a lot, draws fouls a lot. He attempted 15 free throws, and even if he shoots 65% on 15 free throws, it's still a ton. So, it's always going to be a tough out to try to, stop Purdue offensively. Now, where I'm impressed is that Purdue is able to hold Iowa 70 at home. Iowa's, it's a team that can shoot really well and can kind of space you out a little bit. And Purdue, I think that's where Lance Jones really can make his mark, not just offensively, but defensively. He brings an intensity. Braden Smith, he's tenacious as a defender, but undersized, right? If he has a bigger guy playing, that he's playing against, they can shoot over him. I think Loyer can get a little bit lost defensively sometimes. He's good at drawing charges and moving his feet, but I think a guy like Lance Jones really balances you out defensively in the backcourt, where you need to be able to put pressure on the other team's guards, and they were able to do that. So I think this is Purdue's. This is one of the best teams I've ever seen Matt Painter field, and I'm fine. I'm running out of excuses for why this team can't make a Final Four, other than it being Matt Painter. If they don't do it this year, when will they do it? I really have a hard time seeing that. It's just that they're so complete, particularly that starting 5. It's hard to stop all the weapons that they have, even if one has an off night.
Yeah, and I think that's the talking point right now with Purdue is, when they play Wisconsin, can they beat Wisconsin to win the Big Ten? I think yes. That's their kind of their next step, and all of that. And obviously, don't have the down games like you get against Nebraska, Northwestern. You need to win those games. But ultimately, it comes down to the tournament. Is this team built well enough to win in the tournament? I think Braden Smith is a much better guard this season. I think, I say that with him having 4 turnovers in this game. It wasn't his best, turnover margin game, but he did have 9 assists. So when you're going to be passing it and, dealing it as much as he is, you're going to turn it over at some point. 9 points, 9 assists in this one. That's what you want. And then Fletcher Lawyer, when this guy is on, he's on, and I think you just have to keep him on the court for that. I know after our last recap, some people were telling me, no, you have to have Heidi in there, you have to have Morton in there when Fletcher Lawyer isn't hitting, and I disagree. I obviously have to get a player off the court sometimes, but Fletcher Lawyer, man, his ceiling is so high. I think you got to leave him out there on the court and just let him dish, because at the end of the day, he could get hot at any time and hit 3 threes in a row or something, get crazy and really go off against the team. And with the star power that you have with Zach Edey and with the playing ability of Lance Jones and Braden Smith, if you get that from Fletcher Lawyer, it's game over. There's nobody that's beating this team if Fletcher Lawyer is hitting his ceiling. Kent, you have any thoughts about, Purdue and the tournament or Fletcher Lawyer or anything that I said there?
I think that this is the year. I mean, I feel like we've seen it a couple of times in college basketball. Like Virginia got knocked out by a 16 seed, and they came back the next year and won it. Am I correct about this, guys?
Yes.
It feels like after a team gets kind of, I'll say embarrassed. I guess they got embarrassed last year. So after they get embarrassed, they have a little bit more of that extra motivation to make a run the following year. And I do think that there's something to that. I think the guys that were on the team last year, Zach Edey being one of them, will have that extra motivation and they'll be able to make a deep run. I think they have a legitimate chance to win the entire thing. I think that they for sure could win the national championship. They have the best resume, I think, in all of college basketball right now. They've eaten some of the, I mean, how many top 10 KenPom wins do they have at
6
this point?
quad 1 wins.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, so they can definitely play with anyone. The problem is they can play with anyone. They can lose to Nebraska. They can lose to Northwestern. So it's just a matter of how well they can play at those neutral sites once March Madness starts. But I think that they're built for it. And I don't put any stock into the Matt Painter history at all. I think that any coach with a team that is this good can win the whole thing. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, and when you have Zach Edey, there is not a team out there that you cannot beat. And at the end of the day, that should be the trump card in every situation is we have Zach Edey. End of story. It obviously, if some of these better teams play him, but anything could happen. But that's what I'm trying to say with, some of these smaller teams, not smaller teams, some of this less competition teams like a Nebraska or a Northwestern, where in reality, we know those teams aren't as good as Purdue, and Zach Edey should just be the trump card in this one. So, their quad 1 wins are they beat Gonzaga, Tennessee, Marquette, Alabama, Arizona, Illinois, and actually Iowa was a quad 1 win, so they do have 7 now because Iowa is 50th in KenPom, so that's I think that's right on the line because it was at Iowa on this one. So
Gonzaga's got to be right on the line too because they're fading at this point.
Yeah, they're faltering a little bit right now.
30th in net. Yeah, they're 30th in net. So they were right on the line though because it was or was it neutral? It was either at.
That one was neutral, I think.
Yeah, so neutral, They were right on the line there too. Yeah. Oh, I forgot. It was 1-75 when you're on the road. So.
And Adam Morrison did not play in that game, so that's a factor for Gonzaga. So it's tough to really. You like look at that and you go, was that really a good win?
Yeah.
Their
quad 1 games remaining are at Wisconsin, at Ohio State. How is that a quad 1 game? Oh my goodness. And then Michigan State, at Illinois, and Wisconsin. So they do have Wisconsin twice more this year in Illinois. So, could have something happen there. But no,
this is one spot where it's interesting for Michigan State. They have 3 signature games left on the entire schedule. They have Illinois. They have at Wisconsin this Friday, which I will be at because I live in Madison.
Nice.
And then they have Illinois at home, and then they have at Purdue, and that's it. And they have other road games too, but all of them are quad 2. Those are their 3 signature games left on the schedule. Other than that, it's a lot of games that feel similar to Maryland. At Maryland.
Well, my Buckeyes will try to get up to 30 for you. We're at 46 now,
Please
so we'll
do.
try to get up to 30 for you. Just so you can beat us and knock us back down. I think biggest thing with Purdue is we can just keep talking about how they're just going to keep winning, but at the end of the day, those fans aren't going to be satisfied unless they make it deep into the tournament. I think Final Four is what they're looking for at the very least. So, but I'd love to get another Purdue fan on here and get their thoughts. So, all right, before we move on to the next one, do we remind you CBB Analytics is where we get a lot of our analytics here at the Big Ten Huddle. They give me a free pro tier to tell you about the CBB Analytics, so go check them out. You don't need a pro tier to get all of the awesome information there. They also have free accounts, free stuff online that you can get, and it's all professionally done. I mean, the guy who made this, he literally used to work for the NBA doing analytics for them, so all the stuff that he used to do for the NBA, he now does for college basketball, and it's awesome stuff. Go check them out, even if you're just looking at it for free, but consider getting a tier because there is a lot of great information there. It's what the coaches use. It's what everybody uses who's serious about basketball. If you're serious about studying your team or the opponents, the matchups, go to CBB Analytics and check them out. All right, Wisconsin. Speaking of Wisconsin, they beat Indiana 91-79. This was not exactly a pretty game. I was talking to my in-laws on, Saturday night, maybe some last night, I guess, about this Indiana team. And, I mean, they are not happy with them at all. And I can't say that Mike Woodson is probably happy with them either. CJ Gunn, did he get ejected or was it just like a flagrant? I think he got ejected, didn't he?
He got ejected, yeah.
Yeah, he got ejected. Max Klesmit was kind of egging him on, but that's also kind of the game. Props to Matt Klesmit if he was able to, get him to react a little bit because that's what you're trying to do. We mentioned how, Maryland is kind of wasting Jameer Young. Indiana's kind of wasting Malik Renew. 28 points, 8 rebounds. I don't think Malik Renew is quite on the same skill level of Jameer Young, but he's definitely a very good player who is not getting quite the recognition he deserves. Peyton Sparks started in this one because Khalil Ware was out, so that was a bit disappointing for them. But, Wisconsin,
Why was
had
he
their
out, by
guys,
the way?
and they
Sorry,
looked great.
JR. Why was he out?
I don't remember. I need to look that
Okay.
up. I'll look it up while Anthony's talking. Anthony, what were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, so this is not I won't say not your dad's Wisconsin team, but not the Wisconsin team that you would have seen this last decade and a half, which are just, grinded out Virginia style slow defense. No, this is a top 5 offensive efficiency Wisconsin team, and you saw every bit of that. I can't remember the last time this team hung 90 on someone in Big Ten play. Maybe during the non-conference schedule when they play a cupcake, but this team's just a completely different animal offensively. When you got a guy like Klesmit, who's 5 of 7 from 3, Chucky Hepburn's always going to be the straw that stirs the drink. I think I've talked bunches about how good AJ Storr has been as a transfer. He is 100% of the reason why you point to the transfer portal as if you've got a hole on the team and you need to plug it, go get your guy. Like AJ Storr is that guy for Wisconsin. He's just been he's been a complete breath of fresh air for this team offensively. And then Wall and Crowell have they've been anchors in the interior for this Wisconsin team for what feels like 7 seasons now. I feel like those two guys have been there for forever, and they're kind of slithery. They'll duck under a little bit. They have a way of they're just a very strong interior duo. So it's a really, really tough team to try to handle, offensively, trying to stop them. And, Indiana tried to keep it interesting, but, without Khalil Ware there, I think that really, Malik Reneau, and that was it, right? It was just, you need a lot more than that. You need bench contributors to be able to hang with Wisconsin and make stops when you need to. I think how are you going to stop them? I will say this is a weaker defensive team than we're used to seeing from Wisconsin, but the way they're scoring, it probably doesn't matter at this point. So it's one of those Wisconsin teams you're just like, man, how is Wisconsin going to win the Big Ten again or win a share of the Big Ten again? But here they are, year after year, always in the thick of it. It just makes me pull out my hair sometimes, but that's Wisconsin, you know.
Yeah, no, I was reminiscing when I was watching this game back to Wisconsin fans last year talking about how Greg Gard has no offense and, you know, he can't put anything together and, you know, should we move on from Greg Gard? And I'm like, man, has any coach answered what the fans were clamoring about more than Greg Gard has this year?
They had a game where Chucky Hepburn threw a lob off the backboard to a guy who dunked it. And it's like, what am I watching here? This is not Wisconsin basketball. This is a completely new product. So...
Showtime in Madison.
Showtime, Lob City.
Kent Kaloware was out with an ankle injury in this one, and apparently, I read in the thing, the Daily Student for Indiana, apparently the student asked Mike Woodson how long he would be out for, and Woodson said, I don't know. I really don't know. Can't say I know. Please don't ask me if I know. I don't know. So, that's Mike Woodson for you. Kent, what were your thoughts on the game?
I was watching this game, I have to admit, while I was watching the new Netflix thriller, American Nightmare, on my second TV. I don't know if you guys have seen this show, but for anyone who's listening,
for Indiana too.
Oh my gosh, it was just, I mean, it was kind of like Indiana season, you're right. But that show, by the way, just a quick plug, thrilling show. It had me twisting and turning on the edge of my seat the whole time. My wife and I loved it. But luckily for us, we have two TVs in our living room. So I had this one on the second TV, as we usually do when my wife is around. But a couple things about this game. First of all, Wisconsin, amazing jerseys in this game. They had the silver letters with the red numbers. I think that this is a good look with the white jerseys. And then, as Anthony already talked about, Max. I mean, dude scored. I pulled this tweet up while you were talking, Anthony. He scored 19 points in a row in the second half. Like, insane, was on fire. Dude could not miss. And then even I believe right at the end of that stretch, he had like a pull-up jumper from three where it looked like he was going to shoot. And then at the last minute, just like dumped it down into the post. I forget who was down there. It was either Wall or somebody else. But and then got like, I mean, they were just on fire. He was on fire. He could not be stopped. It was ridiculous. And it was really, really fun to watch, actually. Especially while I was watching a show about murder. Even more fun to watch while I was doing that. It was insane. I did want to point out too that I haven't watched a ton of Indiana while Peyton Sparks was on the floor. He is, if we were ever going to do a draft of guys that you want on your team in a bar fight, number one pick, Peyton Sparks. Dude is jacked. I didn't realize he was that big. They had like close-ups on him while he was shooting free throws. I've never messed with him. I would never say a bad thing about Peyton Sparks, and I want him to be my friend anytime I go out on the town. I love Peyton Sparks. But unfortunately for him, his team lost this game. Indiana just didn't have enough. Wisconsin, like I said last week, JR, I think that they're a legitimate team to win the Big Ten outright, not just like tie it. I think that they could beat, I really think they can beat Purdue. And I think that they can keep the lead on them and win it outright. And I tweeted out right after the game that I think that Wisconsin could be a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. I think it's legit. I just don't see very many games on their schedule that they're going to lose. I mean, Purdue is one of them that they could lose. But other than that, I'm just not really worried. They get Michigan State at home. Just a lot of other really good things lining up for them on their schedule. So I feel like that Wisconsin is a team that we need to keep an eye on throughout the rest of the season.
I'm not trying to jinx Wisconsin in Madison, but Michigan State has won 2 straight there, and I've been present for both of those wins, and I will also be going this Friday. So,
oh man,
all eyes on that. All eyes on that game.
I am really excited about that game. I'm excited about that one, and obviously the Purdue game. Like, it's just going to be really fun to watch the top tier teams play against Wisconsin, who I think is right up there as well.
So Torvik, one of my favorite analytics guys, he has 4 teams in the Big Ten who currently have a projected record above 500 in Big Ten play. Illinois, Purdue, Wisconsin, and Michigan State. And Michigan State is 11-9, and then there's a whole bunch of teams at 500, and then everybody else is below. So it's just, I hate to say a mid-year for most of the conference, but there are those years where you get, 8, 9, 10 teams who are all kind of in the lower seeds and then a couple higher ones. But this is going to be a year where we have 3 who are top 4 seeds in the tournament, maybe a couple more who are going to be in the, 7, 8, 9, 10 range. But outside of that, it looks like a year where the Big Ten has a couple teams who are really good and then a lot of teams who are just
Yeah, for sure.
Before I get to my point, Not Ryan says it's going to be crazy when I think he means Sparty beats Wisconsin on Friday. So you have a fan there with you. Okay, so I've been thinking about this a lot. I've been workshopping it in my mind. Some people are going to hate me for this. If Rajiv is watching this, I know he's not going to like me for a minute, but hear me out, guys. Wisconsin. I feel like they are kind of like the Iowa of the Big Ten this season from Iowa football. Hear me out. I know you're like, John, what are you talking about? Other than Marquette, what really good team have they beat this year? They beat Virginia, but Virginia's 13-6 or something like that. They're kind of a so-so team. I mean, they're good in the ACC, but they're not blowing anybody out of the water. I know they beat team by some good points, but I don't know. I want to see the big wins before I start crowning them. They went undefeated in the Big Ten. Kent, I know you don't like this, and it's fine. But, I mean, they got to beat Minnesota, Sparty, Nebraska. I mean, Sparty's going to be probably their biggest test. But, I mean, I look at the schedule and I look at their games and I say, who have they really beat that is a really good team? Purdue, who have they beat that's a really good team? Well,
already they beat us once, and they did it handily. They made us look really silly in the Breslin when our team was reeling, but
that's true.
Yeah, I'm with you that they really, outside of Marquette, you look at a team like Purdue who has 6 ridiculous wins, quad 1 wins, where they're just completely dominant. Wisconsin maybe doesn't have the strength of schedule there, but they're also just the team that just kind of finds a way. You don't like how they do it, but you're just like, man, they just won again. Like it's not always pretty, but they go out, they get a win.
I don't think that they're the best team in the Big Ten. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the way that their schedule lines up, they have a legitimate chance to still win the Big Ten. I do think that Purdue's resume is still better, but you look at some of their away games, like you were just saying, at Minnesota, that's a win. They're going to Nebraska. They already beat them by 16. At Michigan is a win for everybody. At Rutgers is an easy win. At Iowa, at Indiana, they have at Purdue at the end of the year. We talked about this last week. That could be for the conference right there. But, those road games right there, if you take Purdue out of it, I don't see one that they really should lose, honestly. And then everybody that they have at home, even, it's Michigan State's going to be tough and Purdue's going to be tough. But, I think they could beat everybody else that they have at home. So, I don't know, man. I just really like their schedule.
If they can get through, so they have a 3-game stretch coming up. If they can get through at home against Michigan State, at Nebraska, and then at home against Purdue, and they can go 2-1 in that stretch or 3-0, I am totally with you. There's no way that team should not win at least a portion of the Big Ten.
Yeah, and when I said Iowa football of Big Ten basketball, that was probably too big. I'm trying to find some kind of comparison for a team that wins games that they should, but I haven't seen them beat any really, really good teams. And I know that's hyperbolic because
Penn State
Marquette. Well, yeah, that actually kind of fits. And they lost to Penn State at Penn State 2 games
ago. That's
right. So there you go. I don't know. I'm not trying to say I'm not a believer in Wisconsin. I do think Wisconsin is a good team. I just want to see them beat a very good team that's not Marquette, because I think Marquette has been up and down a little bit, and I think they have some good wins. I think they have some bad losses as well. But the game I have circled right now is that Illinois game. in March. At the beginning,
They
of
did
March
beat a
there.
really good Chicago State team. I want to point that out.
Yeah,
That is
give 'em
a
credit for Chicago State.
quality win right there at home, which not a lot of teams in the Big Ten have done that this year, beating
Yeah,
Chicago State at
Northwestern
home.
lost. What's Chicago State's record against the Big Ten? Like 1-1 or
I
something
think
like
it's
that.
got to be 1-1, right?
We're catching some strays here, Chris Collins.
Moving on to Chris Collins and Northwestern. Nebraska beats the Fighting Wildcats and the Fighting Boo Buoys 75-69. In this one, Tominaga looked like he had the game of his life and he was having so much fun out there. I had fun watching the game, if nothing else, just because I got to watch Tominaga play. And they were talking about it on the broadcast about how he loves to play basketball. And, I hadn't really thought of that to that extent that they were kind of going into. And you could just tell he was having so much fun out there and playing so well that this Nebraska team is fun to watch. Rank Mass airballed a three-pointer, but you know what? They went down and they played great defense and they just kept going in this one. So I was kind of concerned what they would be like without Juwan Gary, but this Alec, what's his first name? Josiah Alec, he stepped in and he did a really good job for the Juwan Gary role, 15 points, 5 rebounds. So I'm not as concerned about that as I once was, but Kent, I'm not concerned. I'm curious your thoughts on this game.
For Nebraska, it's funny that you say that. Like, I like playing basketball too, and I have a lot of fun doing it. But the difference is that Casey is actually really good at it. That's the big difference between me and him. I like watching Nebraska on when they're at home. I really do. I think that they're a completely different team. I mean, how do you lose to Rutgers earlier in the week and then come back home and win this game? I just don't really understand how it happens. I mean, they're just a completely different team. I still will never lose faith. Anthony, it's funny you mentioned Chris Collins. He's my favorite coach in the entire conference. So I'm still not completely losing faith in Northwestern, but here's what I'm going to say about them, and this is my biggest takeaway from this game. Ty Berry has gone from a guy that was it's okay if he scores and we can still win or lose if he does or doesn't to we need you to score, dude. And he didn't do it in this game. He went 2 for 10 and scored 6 points, and that's not enough from him. They need more from him if they're going to win a road game at Nebraska. So not that I'm placing all the blame on Ty Berry because I like Ty Berry. He's a great basketball player. He seems like a really nice kid too. But it's his fault that they lost. They needed more points from him. So I like watching Nebraska, like I said, at home. It's just really weird. They're one of the most up and down teams when they travel and when they're at home. It's very odd to watch, but like you said, very fun to watch in this most recent game.
Well, and Sam Hoiberg too, right? I mean, this guy has a level of energy at home. I mean, there was like that one rebound. I forget when it was in the game, but like that one rebound where like 3 Northwestern players were all around the ball, and he just like scoots in there and gets the ball, and he like throws it underhand back out to Kasai Tominaga, and it was just like, man, you can see why this guy gets the playing time he does. He's the complete opposite of a coach's son. Like, I don't know about you guys. When I was growing up playing ball, the coach's son was always like the one that was like, I don't have to try that hard. My dad's going to play me no matter what. Sam Hoiberg is like what I was when I was playing basketball, where it's like, if I just don't stop running, the coach has to play me, right? It's kind of what Sam Hoiberg does. But, I appreciate watching him play, and I think he's fun to watch, especially in situations like that. And I can't go without calling out CJ. I shouldn't say calling out, but mentioning CJ Wilcher. CJ Wilcher is a really nice piece for Nebraska coming off the bench. 10 points in this one, 2 steals. He had 3 turnovers, so that's not great, but I really like what I see from him, and when he's going, it's really fun to see. Anthony, what were your thoughts on this one?
Well, first off, we need to do a shout out to Josiah Alec for his hair. Yeah. He has probably the best hair in the entire Big Ten. Not even, it's not close. For Tominaga,
hair draft.
Oh yeah. So for Tominaga, he is like, I feel like he has to be like the poster child for like the ideal Big Ten player that like every team likes. I don't think there's a single fan of a single team who watches him play and is like, I just hate this guy. Like, even when you're playing him, like, man, this guy's just balling out. He's having the time of his life out there. So it's a fun team to watch. Nebraska at home is a top 4 team in the Big Ten. Nebraska on the road is a bottom 4 team in the Big Ten. I think they are 0-4 on the road and 4-0 at home. So they really are like home and away, Jekyll and Hyde, kind of like Maryland. Maryland, at home, they're a different team than when they play on the road. But Nebraska is even more extreme than them. Overall, pretty disappointing effort for Northwestern. Obviously, Ty Berry, not his day. But when you have Ty Berry and Boo Buie going 4 for 25 from the field, you're not going to win games doing that. You're just not, right? The other thing about Nebraska is it's not just one guy. It's this wave of guys who just all play really well together. They're just very balanced. They have a lot of different ways that they can hurt you when they're playing at home. So it's, they had Gary go down, but they really haven't lost a step when they're playing without him. So I really, really enjoy watching him play. I really hope that Nebraska can make the tourney because I think Hoiberg deserves it. I think he's taken his lumps, but I think he's gotten jobbed in some past years where he had opportunities to go to the tournament and teams got injured. But I think Hoiberg is a good coach. I think he has these guys playing well together. So it's just, I would love to see Nebraska go to the tournament this year. And I hope that they do make it in and they play well enough down the stretch to do so.
Yeah, Nebraska is one of those teams that makes me want Ken Palm to do like the home and away numbers for all their ratings instead of just like the overall ratings. Like, what is their offensive efficiency when they're at home versus their defensive efficiency when they're on the road? Because, I completely agree with you guys. When Nebraska is playing at home, they are a top 4 team in this league. I mean, they beat Purdue at home. They just beat Northwestern at home, but then they go on the road like you guys were talking about, and they have lost 2 teams on the road. And I'm not trying to say they're a bad team because I think they're a much improved team, but they've lost to Minnesota on the road. They just they blew a lead and lost to Rutgers on the road. They got blown out by Iowa on the road after blowing out Purdue in their game. So just a completely different team. But I think Fred Hoiberg, he saved his job at the end of last season, and he's brought these players back, and he's looking even better than he ever has at Nebraska. His offense is really looking nice, and I think Nebraska has earned themselves in the conversation of possibly being the 4th best team in the Big Ten. I still think it's probably Northwestern or Michigan State, one of those two, but Nebraska has earned themselves in that conversation. It just really depends on, like we said, where are they playing at and stuff. Kent, you have a puzzled look on your face. Is there something I said you disagree with?
I don't even want to tell you what I'm looking up right now. I want to save it till the end of the show.
Okay, all right. So it's nothing I said. You're just looking something.
No, nothing at all. Sorry.
Okay.
It'll be worth it. It'll be worth it at the end, I promise.
Okay, we'll get to the end. I've been dreading this part the entire show, but Ohio State, I guess I shouldn't be dreading it because they did win, but they won 79-67. That's nice. They beat a team that they lost an 18-point lead on earlier this season. So this is the part of the show where I get depressed and talk about my team that is going to give me some false hope here because Evan Mahaffey decided to score, even though he's not decided to score any other times this season. And just this game, he's like, "Don't fire my coach," which I'm right there with you. I love Chris Holtmann. I want him to be the coach, but things just aren't looking good. They break the 3-game losing streak. I don't know. I'm kind of going through it. Anthony, why don't you start talking about the game because I'm kind of not making very much sense.
So I don't have a ton of notes, unfortunately, to bail you out, but I will say Penn State, as much as they were a get-wrong opponent for Ohio State earlier this season, they are a get-right type opponent if you're on a 3-game skid, which Ohio State was. So there's no better team to figure yourself out against than Penn State, who themselves is a bit lost on both sides of the ball. Roddy Gale does what he's been doing all season. He's a great bucket getter for you guys. Mahaffey, former Penn State transfer, which is why he did what he did, right? You got him from Penn State, so that's he bailed you guys out.
Yep.
It's good to get back on, in the win column. Ohio State, I think they have a little bit of they really need to work on piecing it together, I guess. I think that they have opportunities in front of them to get good signature wins, but because they actually have one of the harder schedules ahead of them in the Big Ten. They still have to travel to Wisconsin. They get Purdue at home. They have to travel to Michigan State. They get Illinois at home. So they still have a lot of opportunities to get a signature win. And overall, they're a team that like the metrics seem to like pretty well. I think Torvik has them as 32nd ranked defense, 45th ranked, or 32nd ranked offense, 45th ranked defense. So they're a team that can do some interesting stuff, but just can they be consistent, right? Really, that 3-game skid showed a lot of stuff that was kind of a little bit of an ugly side for them. So we'll see what they can do.
Yeah, I mean, these last 4 games, it's been the shooting. Bruce Thornton, Roddy Gale on this one from 3-point. They go 1 for 10 in this one combined. I'm glad they won without, spectacular 3-point shooting or even average 3-point shooting. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's 4 games in a row where Roddy Gale and Bruce Thornton just have not shot well from 3-point land. And, early on in the season, I remember when IU wasn't shooting very well from 3-point land, they started shooting less than 10 3-pointers a game altogether. And I was like, okay, that works for them. I would love to see Ohio State do this now. If, Bruce Thornton and Roddy Gale could combine shoot less than 4 3-pointers, I think I might want to see that, because at the end of the day, they're not doing a very good job of shooting them. And even Dale Bonner in this one, the backup point guard for them, he went 1 for 4 from 3-point land. Just let Jamison Battle shoot 3-pointers and nobody else, because Jamison Battle can hit them. Nobody else can right now. Get your confidence back, shoot 4 a game, and, maybe make some. But at the end of the day, it was the Ohio State defense in this one that saved them. I mean, they locked down Kanye Clary, only 13 points for him. Nick Kern, he only had 12 points. Ace Baldwin, he only had 10 points. But the big thing for them is they only let him have 1 steal. They didn't turn the ball over like Ace Baldwin's been doing a lot this season. So, I'm hoping this is some momentum for Ohio State. But when you start the game, what was it? I don't think Penn State scored for the first 7 minutes in this game. Yeah, they started the game on a 16-0 run on Penn State. So when you start the game on a 16-0 run, you should win by double digits, and thankfully they did. But Kent, what were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I actually didn't watch much of this game either. I apologize for that. But with it being the last game, it doesn't seem like you're very excited about it either. But here's what I will say about this game, though. Penn State on Tuesday is the only team in the conference that has beaten Wisconsin. And then they came out in their next game, and your Ohio State Buckeyes beat them. So you beat the team that beat the team. So basically, right now, Ohio State is the best team in the conference. Are you with me on this, JR?
I wish.
I believe that completes the Big Ten circle of suck.
It does. It does.
Is that the one that did it? Was the Penn State win over Wisconsin?
The Penn State win over Wisconsin was the one we were missing.
Excellent.
It was.
That's what we wanted.
But yeah, good revenge game for Ohio State. I feel like I have more confidence in Ohio State than you do right now, JR. I feel like they're still a decent team. And like Anthony was saying earlier, the Big Ten is kind of down this year. So this is a great year for them to just be okay and pick up some wins here at the end of the year and still make the NCAA tournament. After last year, you got to be excited about that after last year, I feel like.
Well, I did something I should have done this week, and this is a problem for me in my life, and my 2 buddies here that can help me through my addiction here. I went back and I watched 2000 to 2010 Ohio State basketball highlights when they had Greg Oden and Mike Conley and all those guys.
Mark Titus.
Yeah, Mark Titus. Yeah, Mark Titus. He was a star on the court. Yeah, I went back and I did that. John Diebler, all those guys, and basically the Thad Matta era is what I did. It wasn't even 2000 to 2010, but basically the Thad Matta era. I went back and I watched highlights, and I just got sad because I thought to myself, man, this is the Ohio State basketball era that I loved and was awesome, and now it's just I watch this Ohio State team, and I like all of these players. I want them to do well. I like Chris Holtmann. I want him to do well. But they don't do well. They don't shoot well. Bruce Thornton, I'll give him credit. He didn't run around with his head cut off this game like he did in the last one. He had 6 assists in this one, only 2 turnovers. So, props to him. But I mean, Ohio State, they're not going to win if they don't start shooting better. I mean, they lost the 3 games before this because they had poor shooting, and thankfully they played good enough defense against Penn State in this one that their primary scorers couldn't, go crazy and win the game for them. So, I don't know. Am I wrong to leave Ohio State out of the conversation for the 4th best team in the conference?
I'm going to say
I don't
no.
think I'm wrong.
I don't want to be mean, but no.
No, please be mean. Please be
I
mean.
think they're an aspiring.
It helps validate my feelings.
I think that right now their expectation would be about a 500 team in conference play, right? I think if they get a 10-10 record, that's about what you would expect for this Ohio State team. Can they weasel out a couple extra wins and make their way up to 11-9 or 12-8? Maybe. But top 4 team that's tough. There's a lot of teams vying for that slot.
But that's my thing. Like, will 20-11 get you into the tournament this year in the Big Ten? I think in the Big Ten past, yeah, but I don't think it will this year.
I think you have to have an above 500 record or if you have a sub 500 record in Big Ten play, I don't think you get in the tournament this year.
I don't think you can either. I think you're right. Yeah,
I'm looking at Ohio State's schedule right now. If you guys win your next game at Nebraska, I'm all in on the Buckeyes because no one wins at Nebraska. Nobody.
I had somebody tell me on Twitter, they were like, "Oh, they play at Nebraska next game. That should be an easy one." And I was like, "You're not paying attention to the Big Ten this year, are you?"
Totally.
Yeah, no, Ken Palm has them losing their next 4 games, and then I forget what it is after that. But I mean, if I'm being honest, I'm looking at this here. They lost to Indiana at Indiana. I don't think it's likely that they lose to Indiana at home, but it could happen if Khalil Ware is back. That's a really tough matchup for Felix Okpara. Maryland, they should beat Maryland at home, but I'm not going to say that they will because Jameer Young's really, really good, and he could go off in that one. They're going to lose to Wisconsin at Wisconsin. They're going to lose to Purdue. They're going to lose at Michigan State. They might beat Minnesota at Minnesota. We'll see. I don't feel confident in that
No, they
one.
will. They will.
I don't feel confident in it.
Minnesota's going downhill fast.
Yeah, okay. All right. I'll take your word for it and give me some hope. I mean, I look at this and the for sure wins that I see on the schedule are at Rutgers. They should win, but that's also the rack. So, who knows? I look at Michigan at home against Michigan. They just lost at Michigan. So, I don't know. I don't see any guarantee wins on the rest of that schedule, and that scares me. So
guaranteed wins? I mean, for sure, Michigan coming to town, that's a win. And I would say Minnesota and I would say Indiana at home. Those are 3 at least. I don't know. Can't give you much else than that.
You're more optimistic than me. Anthony, you be the decider. Do you see any guaranteed wins here?
Oh, he's on mute.
Oh, you're muted, Anthony.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I said let me pull up their schedule. I was crunching some numbers for Nebraska home and away just to satisfy you here. Michigan at home. Maryland at home they're pretty bad on the road. That would be. Yeah, those are really the only 2 guaranteed ones. Other ones they're certainly going to be 60-40, but the ones that you really think you're gonna clean up, that would be those 2.
Yeah. So, oh man. Well, we have our most viewers right now, topping 30.
Let's go.
So, thank you for tuning in for my depressing Ohio State talk. I think maybe the viewers just like to see me be depressed. That's okay. You can see me be depressed. Any thoughts on Penn State before we get out of here, guys? Is there anything to talk about with them? Kanye Clary is good, but he wasn't good in this game. Ace Baldwin's good, but he wasn't good in this game. Anything?
No, Penn State stinks.
Amen.
What do you want me to say? I mean, they stink.
I agree. I'm trying to look for something, but I can't find anything either. Anthony,
I got this for you. This is what I was saving for you, JR. Chicago State 2 days ago beat the University of East West. That's a real college in Chicago. I looked it up. It's on Michigan Ave. It's right off Michigan Ave here not here in Chicago. I don't live in Chicago, but in Chicago. The University of East West, they beat them 131-55. Smacked their buns the other night.
Wow.
Chicago State is legit. Put some respect on their name.
Watch out. Chicago State. I think they're the only independent team in college basketball.
East-West is independent.
Chicago State. No, Chicago East-West is?
Yeah, I was
Chicago
reading
State
way
was the
too
only
much about them as you were talking earlier.
Oh, okay.
The
All right,
University
as I
of
was going
East
through
West,
it.
which is like just the funniest name of a university to begin with.
That like sounds like a made up.
I think the
University
University
of
of East West has to be talking about the current Big Ten as it stands today after realignment.
Yeah.
True. Wait, hold on. I'm rereading this. East West University is a member of the CAA. I'm sorry. Oh, as an independent though.
CAA.
They're like Notre Dame kind of in the ACC,
Oh yeah, just
but
so we
way
need another
better.
Notre
That's
Dame.
the difference. East
Yeah, I
West
don't
is
see 'em
way
in here.
better than them.
We've gone off the rails.
We have independents. On my CBS Sports app, the only independent I see is Chicago State.
I don't think East West is even like a D1 school though. That may be why.
Oh well,
I don't even know what they are.
yeah, that would be why.
Have you ever heard of them before?
No, I've never heard of them. It sounds like it's something they'd be on a Dr. Pepper commercial.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anthony. You've done the Lord's work here.
So I threw up
100
some adjusted. This is per Bart Torvik. I
Okay.
just averaged out the offensive numbers versus defensive numbers at home versus away in Big Ten play, and it is stark, particularly the defense. Honestly, both of
Wow.
them. You're looking at defense,
look at
sub 90
10
numbers. Yeah.
10-point differential in both. Wow. That is crazy. And this is conference play only?
This is in conference play only. They are just it's night and day, and they're 12-1 at home on the year, I think. So I mean, it's
Wow.
Pinnacle Bank Arena, tough
There
place
you
to
go.
get a win.
That's another Big Ten arena that's really hard to play at. Great. Just what I need. Where my Ohio State has the worst home arena.
I don't want to say there's no chance, but the numbers don't back it up.
No, they do not. Okay, now do Ohio State's numbers. I'm just kidding.
I'll tweet them out if you want. If anybody else wants me to run home and away numbers for your Big Ten team, I will do that.
Okay, there we go. Anthony, the statistician. I love it.
There you go.
I love it. So, all right. Well, we've gone off the rails. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Kent. Kent, you're looking at something. Is there anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
I just I don't even know if you want me to say this. I was just gonna say that the University of East West is 2 blocks away from my favorite pizza place in Chicago, Lou Malnati's. Best pizza in Chicago.
Thank
Lou
the Lord we
Malnati's.
got that.
It's 2
I
blocks
may-
away. So if anyone
Okay.
ever wants to go to an East West University basketball game with me, I will buy the pizza. You buy the tickets. I'm in. Whoever wants to go.
I'm about to look up
Malnati's
ticket
is the
prices.
third best deep dish pizza joint in Chicago. Fight me.
I gotta go.
As a Chicagoan.
At least it's top 3. At least I'm not that off.
I'm gonna get roasted afterwards for saying that, but there are 2 joints that are better than Lou Malnati's.
Well, you have to tell us now before we go. JR, let him finish
Oh.
this and then we can go.
I will.
Pequod's?
I will.
Yeah,
Pequod's?
Pequod's is good.
Pequod's.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Totally underrated.
Yeah.
And then I am a Giordano's over Lou Malnati's. Geno's, their crust is weird. Otherwise, Geno's toppings are really. Geno's has a good filling, but there you go. I'll put Geno's below Lou Malnati's.
Okay. That's fair. I haven't had that second one that you said ever, but I don't live in
Giordano's?
Chicago. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had that one.
It's kind of like it's a little. Its filling isn't as good as Geno's, but its crust is way better. So anyway, sorry again, off the rails. But if you need any local deep dish recommendations, yeah, Pequod's, that would be. It's a little hard to get to, but
It's good though. You're right. That is
at least
top
I
notch.
recognize the true goat of deep dish pizza.
It's good.
There's not really tickets on sale for East-West games. Sit courtside for $100.
Imagine my shock.
I think that's a walk-in
Oh.
situation.
East-West Phantoms. Is it the Phantoms? Is that the name of the
You got more info than I did already.
East-West Phantoms men's basketball tickets? Under it, bummer. No events happening. So Maybe
Oh,
they're not
that's
even
brutal.
fielding a basketball team. Oh, here we go. For the current season, it is
Oh, yeah, it's the Phantoms.
$13 for courtside tickets.
Let's go, dude.
Let's go sit courtside.
Get some loos. Go sit courtside. This is shaping up for a weekend, man. Let's make a trip.
There we go.
I'm really impressed with anybody who's hung around with us for this long. Thank you to all of you who are still listening.
We still have 25 viewers on YouTube. I don't know what they're doing.
You guys need to get a hobby.
They were sticking around for the pizza recommendations for
There you
sure.
go.
They actually just fell asleep while they were watching us.
Come for they forgot to click out their browser.
We're still
For
25 strong. We're referencing it. We're still 25 strong. Yeah, so that's the next podcast. Kent and I will be going courtside to East West. Anthony,
That'd
you're
be
welcome
so
to join
fun.
us. And, we can paste many different pizza places together. I'm all for it. If you guys are buying the pizza, I'll buy the courtside tickets.
No one on the internet's ever done that. We should go to a pizza place and just take one bite of stuff and then rate it. Like, no one's ever done that on the internet.
Yeah, no, that's never happened before.
No, we should do that.
It's unfortunately a saturated market.
We lost one viewer, 24.
Dang it. It was the Dave Portnoy joke. I knew it. I knew it.
Going down.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Even if you fell asleep, thank you for watching. Thank you to Anthony and Kent for coming on. Appreciate you guys. I need to get a drink because I'm losing my voice. Have a great night.